ASP Russell joins me yet again for the latest installment of Police and You, and I will give Officer Russell an opportunity as we kick things off to extend greetings to all the SCA students and of course to the top brass of the TTPS. Officer Russell, good morning.
Good morning. I thank you for that opportunity. Good morning, Mr. Williams, and good morning, Trinidad Tobago, on behalf of the Commissioner of Police, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Assistant Commissioners of Police, First and Second Division officers of the Trinidad Tobago Police Service. And let me say to all the SCA students, I know today is a big day. Parents, I know it's a big day for you as well. I know it's as if you are writing the exams as well, but you know, show the children that love, give them that support, give them that comfort, and let your children know that this one exam is not the final determinant that will dictate where they end up or how successful they are. At the end of the 5-year period in the secondary school, everybody writes the same CXC exam. It's about application, it's about discipline, it's about respect, it's about tolerance, it's about production, it's about commitment, it's about character, it's about behavior. And parents are tasked with a responsibility to ensure that your children become upstanding citizens. So go out there, put your best foot forward. To the rest of Trinidad and Tobago, be careful. To those who have music in their vehicles, remember, today is a big day for the students. So when you're passing by the schools, be mindful of that noise, you know. So
important advice. Obviously, I forgot about that aspect because yes, people are sometimes very
inconsiderate.
Yeah. Correct is right. You know, you mentioned an important word that the parents and their role alongside teachers and all of us in the wider society to really look after the children, because the reality is, Officer Russell, we go to the graduation for the standard 5 students, and yes, there are certain primary schools that might be problematic. But all in all, you see the innocence in most of the primary school children for graduation. They beautiful children, young boys, young girls, full of hope, and you see the twinkle in their eye. And for some reason, when they enter the secondary school system, we know the challenges there are a bit it's on a different tier. And unfortunately, some students with all that innocence and potential fall in to the wrong friends, the wrong group, the wrong subculture. And we have seen lots of indiscipline, more so within the secondary system as opposed to primary. Not saying the primary don't have problems,
Yes,
but the major problems we treat with is via the secondary student. How could we nip that in the bud? How could everybody be on the same page to ensure that the same sweet child from standard 5 could transition straight to form 5?
Right, and I like that. And you said something before about problematic primary schools. And when you speak to a problematic primary school, it shows that there is a disconnect, some dysfunction or malfunction within the home. Because primary school cater for a certain age.
That's children.
So it's proper children, and if there are children that are in the primary school system that has no respect for authority, that has no behavior, that is indisciplined and shows continuous deviant behavior, then it speaks to a situation at home. Who would have been responsible for developing that child? Training that child? Who was responsible for imparting morals and values on that child? So they would continuously go to another school and bring the same behavior and maybe in a position where they may influence others. Because when you go to that secondary school, you meet a mix of different children. There are children who are only child and looking for that sense of belonging for the brother or sister that they never had.
So let me ask, for want of a better word, if a child from the primary level, there's a particular record of their behavior, is that information transferred to the secondary school that they're going to enter in Form 1 so that the principal and teachers know that this child, I don't want to say a rap sheet because that's kind of strong, but this child definitely is problematic so that they could pay particular attention? Is there any, because I guess it seems like we're operating in silos, because from primary to secondary, the transition is made, and I wonder if there's any knowledge of a problematic child going into the system.
Well, not that I am aware of, and you don't want, to send a child into an environment with some sort of discriminatory vibe over them, for want of a better word. Because I'm saying if you send that child into that environment like that, sometimes the things we tell children, they go and behave the same way, But if you hold on to your children and tell the children, we love you, you can do better, they would want to do better. But if you call them stupid and idiot every time they do something wrong, and it speaks to what we're saying about teaching children to respect authority. Hence the reason we now have the school-oriented policing, where you see some students still fighting in front of the teachers. And it's the parents' responsibility, the guardians, the relatives. And when I say parent, I want to expand it. I should say caregivers, to include the grandparents and the uncles and the aunts, because everybody, we have to go back to the days of it taking a community to raise a child. So you must teach your children respect for authority. Respect for authority starts at home. Respect for mom and dad, your grandparents, your teachers, the police, etc.
Let me ask you, ASP Russell, I saw via the news cycle, via the first term when the officers went into the schools, a couple students would have been arrested for indiscipline. Does that arrest carry any kind of record, or was it just an arrest to shake them up and what's the parameters really?
Well, it would depend on what they were arrested for, number one, and it would depend on the judiciary, because... But
not every arrest will carry a record. Sometimes there's an arrest.
Sometimes it may be placed on a bond to keep the peace, and after that, sometimes the judiciary, the sitting magistrate may recommend counseling, mediation, supervision, Well,
what constitutes an arrest? We're talking here, you're actually taken out of the school system, put into a jeep, in handcuffs, and taken to the police station?
Number one, we don't handcuff them. That's number one. Okay, well, because we operate under what we call the children's judges rule, where you're not even supposed to put them in a marked vehicle. You have to put them in an unmarked vehicle. They must be accompanied by one of the senior teachers, a principal or the vice principal or a dean or something, if not their parent.
Okay.
So there are things that you have to do to treat the children as children. You see, what we want is rehabilitation. What we want is rehabilitation to avoid recidivism. So that because we would have all done nonsense in our lives that could have put us in a bit of a problem, and we want to ensure that same child, remember you're in your young years, so we want to make sure that you could still come out and contribute positively to Trinidad and Tobago. So it's not just about slapping a child. I mean, whether it's something that gives them a record. I mean, now you would have seen last week or week before 14-year-olds involved in robberies and stuff like that. Situations like that may be treated a bit differently based on the seriousness of the crime.
But in the school system, you're saying that it's a different approach.
We try to use a different approach, I'm
glad I asked these questions because I didn't know. When I hear arrest, I guess most of us, we hear arrest, it immediately goes to handcuffs, you sit down in the back of the jeep and you're taken to the charge room to take fingerprint and stuff.
It's a bit different and have a lot more processes along the way to ensure, because you don't want to scar that child. You want to make sure that child could be rehabilitated and reintroduced to society and be a contributing member of society going forward.
Thank you so much, ASP Russell. Really quick in the time that remains, I was looking at a report last evening with kidnapping development in the Sawa area. Any latest in that regard, and should people be concerned? What are the empiricals showing? Is there any kind of increase in kidnappings?
I would not want to say increase. I know that the Trinidad Tobago Police Service, the anti-kidnapping unit, they would have been working relentless since it was brought to their attention. That is a unit that don't sleep. Once it's a kidnapped victim, we don't sleep. We go until there's some sort of resolve. I too would have seen the video. I wouldn't want to go into the video too much. Let the TTPS do what they have to do, and we will update the media in the shortest possible time. As soon as we have some information to give the media, we will definitely do so.
In the seconds that remain, any advice for the long weekend ahead?
Trinidad and Tobago, it's a long weekend. We tend to go crazy on a long weekend, so I'm saying we will be out there. Remember, we're in a state of emergency. There will be breathalyzers. There will be roadblocks. We will be out there enforcing law and order We ask that you comply with the instructions. We ask that you be a responsible and upstanding citizens. You know, let's move away from the master days, but you have to see the police to do the right thing. And for the children in school who are maybe involved in conflict, we have the Community Conflict Resolution Center, which is coming out of the St. Joseph Police Youth Club, chaired by Corporal Goddard. And we are asking persons, you know, they could utilize that to deal with conflicts amongst the youth. They have run plenty caravans, and it has been successful.
Well, ASP Russell, sincere thanks. We get ready for the 7 a.m. news update and a time check. See you after 7.